Gemini, this week may challenge one of your favorite tools, explanation. You are skilled at naming, connecting, translating, questioning, and making meaning through language. But your card, the High Priestess, asks you to consider that not every truth becomes clearer when you keep talking about it. Some truths become distorted by too much interpretation. There are no verified astrological events supplied for this week, so the reading does not need a manufactured cosmic headline. That absence is strangely appropriate for the High Priestess. She does not rush to fill silence. She does not invent answers just because a blank space feels uncomfortable. She trusts what is known, what is not yet known, and the difference between them. Your central thesis is this: silence is not always a lack of information. Sometimes it is where information organizes itself. The High Priestess represents intuition, hidden knowledge, inner perception, mystery, restraint, and the wisdom to wait before declaring certainty. For Gemini, this can feel almost countercultural. Your mind may produce several explanations before your emotions have even caught up. This week, the invitation is not to stop thinking. It is to stop treating every thought as a conclusion. In love, notice whether you are trying to solve another person's interior world. If you are in a relationship, you may be tempted to interpret pauses, tone changes, delays, or ambiguous behavior before you have enough evidence. Ask instead. And when there is nothing to ask yet, let the unknown remain unknown. Emotional intelligence includes resisting unnecessary narratives. If you are single, the High Priestess can ask you to pay attention to what your body notices before your mind starts negotiating with it. Do you feel calm around someone? Alert? Contracted? Curious? Seen? Pressured? Intuition is not prediction. It is often pattern recognition happening faster than language. At work, this card favors observation before exposure. You may have an idea that is not ready to be announced, or you may be sensing dynamics that are not yet fully visible. You do not need to confront, pitch, or decide immediately. Gather information. Read the room. Protect unfinished work from premature feedback if that feedback would only create noise. There is a difference between collaboration and oversharing. With money, the High Priestess asks you to look beneath surface behavior. A spending habit may not be about the object. A reluctance to spend may not be about prudence. A financial goal may not actually be your own. Study the pattern. What emotion tends to appear before a certain financial decision? What story do you tell yourself afterward? The useful information may be hidden in repetition. In health and energy, your nervous system may benefit from less input. Gemini energy can become overextended through screens, messages, conversations, tabs, alerts, and mental multitasking. The High Priestess suggests selective quiet. Not total withdrawal. Not a digital purity test. Just enough space to hear your own baseline again. If your mind is constantly reacting, intuition becomes harder to distinguish from stimulation. Wednesday is about observation. Notice 3 things without immediately interpreting them. A mood, a conversation, a bodily sensation, a work dynamic. Write down only what happened, not what you think it means. Thursday is about silence. Create one 30-minute period without media, messaging, or deliberate problem solving. Let your mind produce thoughts without chasing them. Friday is about questions. Instead of asking yourself what is the answer, ask what do I actually know, what am I assuming, and what remains unknown. This can radically improve a decision. Saturday is about boundaries around information. You may not need to tell everyone what you are thinking. Keep one idea, plan, or emotional process private long enough for it to become yours. Sunday is about intuitive evidence. Review a past situation where you sensed something before you could explain it. What was the signal? A body sensation? A repeated inconsistency? A feeling of ease? Learn your own intuitive vocabulary. Monday is about selective communication. Speak clearly where clarity is needed, but avoid explaining beyond the point of truth. You do not need a 10-paragraph defense for every boundary. Tuesday is about integration. Look back and notice whether anything became clearer because you did less. That is useful data for the future. Your first journal prompt is, what am I trying to explain because I am uncomfortable not knowing? Your second journal prompt is, what does my body notice before my mind begins to argue? Your third journal prompt is, which part of my life needs less commentary and more observation? For your weekly guidance, practice the 48-hour vault. Choose one unresolved question that is not urgent. Write it at the top of a page. Beneath it, create 3 headings: facts, assumptions, and signals. Fill in only what belongs under each heading. Then close the page and do not seek additional opinions about the question for 48 hours unless new objective information arrives. After the 2 days, reopen it and add anything that became clearer on its own. Your assignment is not to force an answer. It is to learn what your mind knows when it is not crowded by constant consultation. The High Priestess is not anti-logic. She simply understands that logic works best when it is given accurate material. If you rush to interpretation, you can build brilliant arguments on false premises. This week, your power comes from slowing the first conclusion. Gemini, your words are a gift, but silence can be part of language too. A pause can reveal motive. Waiting can reveal consistency. Privacy can protect a fragile truth. A question can be more intelligent than a premature answer. You do not need to become mysterious for the sake of being mysterious. You simply need to stop treating uncertainty like an emergency. There is maturity in saying, I do not know yet. There is wisdom in letting something show you what it is over time. The High Priestess also asks you to examine the difference between curiosity and compulsion. Curiosity opens a door. Compulsion keeps opening the same door because you are hoping the room will change. You may reread a message, search for another explanation, ask one more person what they think, or revisit the same decision from a slightly different angle. At a certain point, more input does not produce more clarity. It produces more noise. One sign that you have crossed that line is when every new piece of information creates a new branch of analysis rather than narrowing the field. If that happens, stop collecting. Return to the simplest facts. What was actually said? What was actually done? What pattern has repeated? What do you know because you directly observed it, and what do you believe because you were trying to complete an unfinished story? The High Priestess is also a card of private authority. Gemini can be highly relational with thought. You may discover what you think by speaking it aloud, and that can be productive. But some decisions become stronger when they are not immediately exposed to commentary. An idea that is still forming can be distorted by other people's preferences before you have even identified your own. Give certain thoughts incubation time. This does not mean secrecy for the sake of control. It means discernment about timing. Share when sharing serves the process. Wait when sharing would only invite premature evaluation. You are allowed to have an internal life that is not constantly translated for an audience. In relationships, this private authority can look like resisting the urge to explain a boundary until the other person agrees with it. A boundary can be communicated respectfully without becoming a debate. At work, it can look like developing a proposal far enough that feedback can improve it instead of defining it. With money, it can mean deciding on a personal rule before discussing purchases with people whose priorities are different from yours. There is another important distinction. Intuition is not anxiety. Anxiety often demands immediate certainty and produces catastrophic possibilities. Intuition is usually quieter. It may simply say, wait. Or no. Or something does not add up. Or this feels safe enough to continue. Learn the tone of each voice. Anxiety often accelerates. Intuition can remain steady even when you do not obey it immediately. This week is a practice in reducing unnecessary interpretation. You do not have to solve every silence, decode every reaction, or anticipate every outcome. Let some things reveal themselves through repetition. Consistency is data. Time is data. Your own calm is data. The more comfortable you become with not knowing everything immediately, the less likely you are to give your intelligence away to speculation. That is the deeper gift of the High Priestess for Gemini. Your mind becomes more powerful when it learns when not to move. Your affirmation this week is, I trust clarity that arrives without force. Carry that with you through August 18th. Subscribe so your next weekly reading is waiting for you. Trust the timing. The stars have spoken.